the third presentation is really the reason I brought y'all here. Because despite having been a Reggio music educator for the last 5 years, I'm still struggling with incorporating Reggio into music. And we'll talk about the reasons, and we'll talk about some of the things I've tried in this presentation. But ultimately, I'm looking for your collaboration, for you and me to work together to talk about how to incorporate what is clearly a remarkable approach in the language of music. So, first of all, here's the thing. We talked about how all you have to do is teach music, and all these other things come into play. You don't have to explicitly. So is it possible that you could teach music without explicitly teaching it? Can we as the music teachers also take that hit and say, hey, maybe we're doing too much? That's a very threatening thing for a music teacher. Music teachers immediately have to be in complete control of the situation when they go in. We know this, and we're going to talk about why in a minute. But, what happens if I decide I don't need to teach children a bunch of stuff? I don't need to teach them ta, ti, ti, ta, do, re, mi. Here are 15 songs. What happens if we just play? Will they learn music? My job's on the line here. How do I talk about that? How do I present it? How do I prove it? I don't have the answers to these questions. I have things I've tried, some things I've done, but I want us to talk about together how to make that happen if we think so. Because I think to not do it, there's no risk. For me to just continue to be Joe music teacher and do what I do, I'm a very good music teacher. I've been teaching music for 20 plus years. I have millions of things I can teach adults, children, and everyone in between. I can get you out of here in 20 minutes knowing 50 things, and I'm good at it. But what's lost when I do that? Who are you? What did I not take it? How am I not cognizant of who you are when you came in the room? What do you want to learn? What excites you? Maybe you'll learn how to play the ukulele when you leave, but maybe you'll never play it again because you didn't really want to play the ukulele. That was nice, Adam. That was fun. And a week later, no, I don't remember any of that. So if we don't take advantage of what children want, if we don't see music as a language for them, but just something that we give them, what are we losing? For me, that's the haunting question. What am I robbing the children of when I am Joe music teacher? So let's talk about that a little bit. It might seem fairly simple to be a music teacher and do Reggio. I found it was very difficult even to get information about Reggio. Reggio, there's tons of stuff about art, tons of stuff about craft, tons of stuff about dramatic play. But music, there really isn't. I think there's a woman named Wendell Hanna who wrote a wonderful book about Reggio. And I have looked, but there's not a lot else besides her book. There's some articles here and there, but the articles don't talk much about how to do it. They just talk about music as a language of children. And you can, let them explore sounds. And you can let them, okay, I'm a music teacher and I'll put a violin down on the floor and the children can play the violin, pluck it. That's 3 minutes. And then they wander off. What else do I do? They're done. How do I make this happen? So here's some of the problems with music. First of all, music is skill-based. When we talk about music, if you want to make music even at a basic level, you have to know something. And the rub is that we are far less tolerant of unskilled musicians than we are of unskilled artists. You'll see this if you go to an elementary school, and you'll see pictures on the wall of the children drawing things, self-portraits, maybe the presidents of the United States, whatever, and it doesn't matter, these pictures on the wall, we look at them, and we really don't judge them. We see them, they're beautiful, right? The children have expressed themselves on paper, and we love them. Some of them are extraordinary, and we see the extraordinary things that have come up, right? Go to a third grade band concert where you're laughing because these children have spent a year on this with their teacher, and it's like, so we try not to laugh at this poor band teacher, and we think in our heads, well, maybe I could have done that better. This teacher, believe me, I've worked with these band teachers, they have killed themselves. We have no tolerance for beginning music. We need music to be at a certain level for us to even be able to say that's music, or even that's acceptable. That's a big problem for a music teacher. How do you let the children just play, and then at the end of the year you show this, here's what the kids can do, and the parents are like, okay, oh, look at that beautiful picture they drew. So that sets us up. It's hard to present and document, Difficulty number 2, music is communal, okay? You get a bunch of kids in a room and you put them in front of paper and they can all draw. You put a big piece of paper on the floor, they can all draw on that paper together and it's great. You put a bunch of musical instruments in a room, you let the children all play those instruments at the same time. What happens? There are only so many combinations that are successful in that. The majority of them are not. It's mostly noise and chaos. There has to be some guidance and some understanding of what to do. You can't really just free up the room for the children because it's loud. They cover their ears. They don't like it. Philip is being loud. Oh, I'd rather do something else. And you're just trying to open it up for them. You want them to express themselves with music. Well, music's communal, and they don't have the skills to interact. It's not until they're older that they even start to learn how to play together. So how do we do music with these children? And the worst one of all is it's dangerous. I mean, you put sticks on the ground, and they hit each other with the sticks. Right? You put a beautiful instrument on the ground and they say, what would happen if I do that? How are you supposed to be a music teacher and let the children explore if they're going to hurt themselves and others, and the noise we've talked about, right? These are not insurmountable, okay? Obviously, I have come up with some solutions, but I wanted to paint the picture as to why the Reggio people, well, that's your problem, music teacher. I don't have solutions for you. We don't know. We're busy with these other things. You're the music teacher. You're the expert. Go figure it out. That's the dilemma I'm in and have been in now I'm not saying I haven't gotten any input. My wife, for instance, has given me great input and insight on how to do this. However, I did want to point out it's not obvious. It's harder for us. And I want this presentation to help bridge that gap somewhat, to help fill in the holes about the missing guidance to overcome these things. This is what I wrote in one of my journals. I do a lot of journals. My fear is that by setting the precedent of following the children, letting them do what they want, that I allow them to break the community energy, and I am chasing after 10 different kids' choices. The best approach seems to be to follow the children's energy and use it to find one thing that they will all do together. Not follow the dictates of the children, but their energy, their reactions to what I offer, and vary my approach until we find something that excites them. This is my first set of thoughts, and I've been working at this a while. I want to create a situation for us to play a little bit, and it's going to be, something like a provocation that I might do. And here's the situation I'm going to do. You have 2 choices. And you might want the clipboards for this. Your choices are you may either document, watch and write what you see, or you may participate. And you can change at any time. You don't always have to do one or the other. If you don't want to play, you can just document. If you decide you'd like to play, you can come play. And there are no rules about this. I'm just here. I'm here to offer you as a resource. Begin.
Come on. Let's play. Let's get back. Yeah. And I'm like, don't put it on your eye. But if we had no rhythm.
Well, that's true. That's true. You're adults, and this is a slightly different situation than children. But it's interesting, right, that you do want to play. and you do feel invited to come up, you've come up. I'm not telling you what to do. Things are emerging.
I'll share.
Okay.
Sharing.
That's fine. I just wanted to touch on it. Did you miss your chance? Do you want to come up and play?
Sure.
Come up and play. And remember, I never said you couldn't take any other instruments. I never said that. I just put those 3 out.
Oh, there.
I told you there's no rules.
Your little buddy Rich. All sounds over there. That's how you sound.
Yay. Okay, so I did this very provocation with our teachers. We're talking about 30, would you say about 30 teachers? These are people who, by and large, most of them are between the ages of 20 and 30. Most of them don't have high education credentials. They're just people who came to work at the school. Some of them are very new. Some of them don't even, they're very cautious and cagey in their approach to Reggio. They're still learning how to be Reggio teachers. And all I did was, I put these 3 boom whackers on the ground in front of the 30 of them. And what do you think their response was?
They just looked at him.
Just looked at them? We all in agreement that that's pretty much what happened? Okay. I'll show you what happened. Okay, so who wants to play? Come play.
Oh my God.
This went on for 15 minutes with no lull, with no input from me at all. Fine. These people were starving for play, as were you. I'm going to stop it. I hate to stop it, but I do want to make sure our presentation doesn't go into an hour. But that's what happened. And I was very surprised. I thought, just like you, they would be like, oh, whatever, Mr. Adam. But no. So, and these are people who are far more inhibited than children, yet they found something to do. Now, they did have skills children don't have, but it does illustrate the power of not teaching them anything, letting them go. Now, I have some more specific things I've done with them than that. But you can start with a simpler provocation. You can start with a jam session, right? The question is, how do you set the jam session up, especially with children? What can you do to create the conditions in which the children can jam and enjoy it, right? In other words, what's the least amount of impact you need to have in that situation to make it work, right? Least the smallest intervention necessary for it to be a good situation. And that's the question we're going to answer, and are trying to answer now. That's the presentation. I want to talk really quickly about my experience as a jazz musician and something I found that was extraordinary to me. I've been playing jazz now for 35 years, just about, and I play on a regular Thursday gig with some friends of mine, and I've had lots of opportunities to play with them. And what amazed me was when I finally, after years and years of wanting to sound really great and awesome, and show everybody how well I could play, when I stopped doing that, and I just said, well, what do I need to do to make the bass player sound good? What do I need to do? Where should my timing be to make him sound like he's the best bass player in the world? What do these other musicians need from me? And that's all I did. And when I played my solo, I thought, what does my solo need to sound like so that the bass player and the drum player sound really great? Not what is my solo. When I did that, They're all like, wow, Adam, you sound great. I supported them. I created the conditions in which they could succeed, and the whole thing went up, and I got the credit for it. Right? You can do the same thing with children. If you just create a situation in which the children are enjoying themselves and having fun, suddenly you are the best music teacher in the world. Amazing, isn't it? To change the mindset to, I have to do this to show everyone that I have taught, versus I'm creating the conditions in which everyone is learning. It's a big shift. And so it can be something as simple as that, you know? If I'd known what you needed, I could have set up something even better. I could have put out the instruments that I knew you wanted to play, but you did great. I want to talk about outliers, the 1 or 2 kids that are not participating. My hardest group is the pre-K kids. They all want to talk to me at the same time. Their attention spans are shorter. They have less patience with me. So what I try to do is when I see one of them starting to lose interest, I say to myself, I bet you most of these kids are starting to lose interest, and this one is just the canary in the coal mine. Maybe I should follow them and change what I'm doing. They set the pace for me, and then not only do I keep them happy, we partner. And to some extent, I think they feel it. The outliers, the bad kids, the troublemakers, suddenly become teacher partners, and they're like the most valuable kid in the class. Now, that can go too far. Sometimes if they realize you're doing that, they sense their power and they push you. And they're like, well, what if I change every 3 seconds? Then you have a choice. You can follow that, or you can pull them back and say, no, I really am the teacher, and it's my job to keep everybody safe. Let's keep doing this for a little while. But it's a conversation instead of a, no, Philippe, no. No, Becky, no. Right? You let the outliers be part of the conversation. Right? And they can be very helpful. In terms of creating more elaborate provocations than 3 boomwhackers on the floor, I want to share with you one of my more successful ones. When I wanted to examine ensemble skills with children, like this question of, well, like you said, Louise, well, we're adults and we know when to play. The children don't. They're all just going to bang, bang, bang. Well, what can we do about that? So I set up a situation called starting sound, stopping sound. And I'll read it to you because it's hard to read here. At the beginning of class, I asked the children, if you had an instrument and you could start when you wanted and you could stop when you wanted, how would you know when to stop? And the class almost unanimously, and that's all I asked. I just asked that question. They all said, when the teacher says stop, and I remember I asked them, you guys said you can start when you want, you can stop when you want. How do you know when to do it? You know when the teacher tells you, okay? And I explained it again to them. It's up to you. They still said, the response didn't change. Even when I explained explicitly, you have the power to decide. They said, when the teacher tells you. Okay, so then we played some games. We wiggled when the teacher said go, go. And we stopped when the teacher said stop. And then we changed it up. Then we wiggled when the ukulele played. And we stopped when it stopped. But then I said, all right, now I want you to wiggle when the ukulele stops. And I want you to be still when it plays. Okay? Then we all got instruments, and we put on a song, and we played when the teacher said play, and we stopped when the teacher said stop. Okay? Then I said, all right, now I want you to play when you want to play, and stop when you want to stop. And these are all pictures, of course, of them in this process. At the end of class, after we did all of this stuff, I asked them, when you had an instrument, how did you know when to start and when to stop? And you remember what their response was at the beginning, when the teacher says. This was their response 20 minutes later. Emma, I wanted to. Lucas, to look at my instrument. Ella, I wanted to do it again and again and stop like a pattern. Phoebe, I'm tired. Blake, because I stopped like a pencil. Cora, when Nora stops. Nora, when Cora stops. Antoine, I stopped because of my plan. Thomas, I stopped because of my plan to never stop. Rian, I didn't stop never. Amelia, I stopped because the music stopped. Grady, you could stop when you wanted and play when you wanted. Hunter, we stopped when we turned the music off. Millie, you can stop when everyone is dancing. Grady, when we wanted to. Maggie, when I wanted to. Bowen, pass it to your friend. Finn, quick, then slow. Cecilia, put it on the floor. Sarah Kate, I decided when I wanted to and when I didn't. Ben, I step on the circle. There's a rule. Richard, when I went around the carpet, I stopped. When I went on the carpet, I played. Again, he created his own rule. Penny, in the green parts, I stopped. 20 minutes later from when the teacher says. All just because we set up a provocation that gave them the idea that they actually had permission and it was up to them. And I didn't explicitly tell them anything. We just moved through this process. So this was a wonderful day. Okay? All right, so this is where I need your help, because as great as this provocation was, it was just one. And, I do get frustrated on a regular basis. I tend to think I'm over-teaching a lot. I have a general plan, which is I want them to know some songs. So we teach some songs at the beginning, and we teach some songs at the end. And in the middle, we do more Reggio exploration. And that's my way, right? So that they have a vocabulary of songs, and we play. But I want us to take some time together, and it can be in a conversation or it can be in breakout sessions, to just talk. I want to have your ideas about some other things, if you have any, that we could do as music teachers and as administrators coaching music teachers. What are some things that you think? This is really me stepping off. I don't have answers. I've shown you everything I know. So I'm going to sit down or I could be at the whiteboard and what are some of your thoughts? Please help me be a better music teacher here.
Maybe based on your observations from the previous provocation, going back and trying to draw out some of their thoughts. So I know one of the students said that he played when he went on the carpet and didn't play when he went off. So maybe we can now have that as a provocation where students, practice with different instruments. So just drawing on their ideas and helping them to grow.
Very Reggio, right? The students suggest the next directions to go. I love that. And it's so obvious. And I hadn't thought of it. I love that. What else? Anybody else have any thoughts coming to their heads?
Could you do something similar, like, you decide when to play loud, when to play soft, or like when to play certain instruments?
Variations on the idea. Yes. Instead of stop, start, it's loud, soft. This is great. Or high, low. You can even get into the boom whackers being different sizes and when do you play high and when do you play low. Wonderful. Wonderful. What else? Let me stimulate you a little more. I do have a few more resources for us to have this discussion. Here are some things that I use as kind of seeds. A jam session we talked about. A story to act out or explore. Start with a story, The Three Little Pigs. Where does that take them in music? Is there a way to express that story through music? What are your ideas? Yes, Miss Teresa.
I was actually just thinking that because, like, for example, the bunny song, like they love doing that. So what if you set up a provocation and your whole music class was the bunny song, because they could sort of act it out and it doesn't have to be that song, but you know what I'm saying. They could act it out sort of like a play with music, a musical, if you will.
Okay, so let me push back a little. That's a great idea, but if the children are coming up with it, how do I talk to 20 children about this? How did 20 children create without all talking over it themselves at the same time? I want to do this. I would love to devote a whole class to the bunny song. How? How do you have that conversation with them?
Well, I mean, obviously with the younger children, you just set it up and kind of go with it. But older children, you could ask them. Ask them, like, I see that you really love the song. Like, what else could we do with this song?
And just start writing ideas down?
Yeah. And it could be, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there are several songs, that I see them really getting into, and that have motion. So that's like, I guess, the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you're talking about student suggested idea or exploration. And then the one we haven't talked about is a problem to solve. And this is kind of fun. Where you might, like, that was the start-stop question. Like, if you have to start or stop, how do you know when? That was the problem they had to solve, those kids. How do you know when to start? How do you know when to stop? And this is, of course, fundamental to any ensemble, especially an improv ensemble. You need to know when to stop playing and when to start. Chamber ensemble, chamber music. And that was the problem they had to figure out. They had no idea at the beginning, but very quickly they came up with solutions to that problem. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Because this is really wonderful. Chain your provocations together and follow the children. Variations on the idea. Take what they love and fill a class with it.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Sorry. So I think, you had the idea of like the variations, and I was going to say, when you asked, after I thought about it, like if you set up the bunny provocation, for example, then that would be like that invitation, and so their reactions to that and what they do, just like you took from their words, and came up with the variations, like after they've interacted with that invitation, then you have some idea of where to kind of go next.
So listen to the children.
Yeah, observe what they do.
Pay
Yes.
attention to what they say, write it down, and think about it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a concept.
And like if they're one or two, then you're observing, more than writing down their words. I mean, they might have words too, but
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just see what they're doing and follow it.
yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they know all the songs, or they know a lot of songs. So if you took one song deeper to a deeper place, what would that do? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm asking you.
Say that again, please.
You've taught them lots of songs,
Right.
and they obviously have their favorites. So if you took one song to a different place, a deeper place, and they're doing it kind of repetitively, what does that give them? What is the value of that? I don't
So
know.
that's the question I'm asking, or you're asking me?
I'm asking you.
What is the value of taking the song deeper? Well, then it's exactly what we're looking for. It's their input, their take on a song. They can begin to explore what excites them about the song. Hey, that counting song we do, what if I did 4 instead of 3? What if we jump roped to it? What if there were 3 people over here and 3 people over there? There's lots of things we could do. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that they're going to be engaged with this for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah,
So
they
then
might
what,
not.
right? I mean, what
Yeah.
if the bunny song excites them for exactly 3.5 minutes? Then I have to have something ready. I have to have something. And this is where the danger comes in, right? I have to have something ready for them to do if it doesn't work. And it has to be more structured than perhaps paint going down a sheet of paper might be, right? But I love it. I mean, great. Anything else? I have a little more to give you if you don't have any ideas, but I want to hear yours. Because this is the fundamental question. Are we preventing the children from learning by teaching them too much, too early? And we're at this stage of our development as United States citizens, we're really trying to educate our students so hard that we may be just pushing them right off the cliff of caring about anything we have to say. We're not listening to them very well, and not taking them seriously as learners, and assuming that they're generally stupid and that they don't care about anything. And that's what you hear people talking about on social media. Kids today, they don't care about anything. They're not smart. They're not attentive. That's garbage. Of course they are. They don't think we're listening to them. They don't think we care. We're putting a screen in front of them while we drive to work instead of talking to them in the van. Why would they want to talk to us? So this is important. It's important. I'm talking too much to you. Here's one little piece. I happened to find, this is suggestions for people that do conferences. How to get a bunch of adults who really don't want to be in your conference to interact and have some fun. And I thought it was perfect for what we're talking about, because bored adults are very analogous to children. when, you know, the only difference is bored adults will pretend to be polite sometimes, you know, but they're in that place where I would rather be at the bar, or I'd rather be, who knows what, skiing or something like that. So this is what they came up with. Number one, begin the learning exercise with a clinical example or anecdote to show the relevance of the material to the student. Translate it into our language, sing or present a song that does what you're teaching about. If you want them to learn about ensemble, pick a song that talks about we all play together, 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 so that you're all talking about the same thing, you know. Number two, frequently ask the students whether they have ever seen examples of what you described in their previous experience with patients. This is for doctors, right? This is specifically for doctors, educating doctors. So have you asked the people, have you ever seen this with your patients? Personal experience, what's your personal experience with relatives? For us, ask the students, have you ever heard that song? Have you ever heard a song that talks about washing the dishes? Have you ever heard a song? What do you already know? Number three, ask students frequently whether they have heard similar material presented differently in other courses. In our language, ask the students if they've heard things like what you're describing, even if it's a little different from your example. Okay, this is a song about a bunny. Have you heard songs about other animals before? Do you want to teach them to me? Do you want to teach them to us? Number four, recruit students to help solve mystery cases. In our language, create a problem for students to solve involving rhythm, melody. Hey, I've got 5 seconds and I need to get 7 beats in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do we do it? How are we going to get all 7 beats in there? Number five, show examples of similar material from real life. In the case of the doctors, it was patient descriptions or even excerpts from favorite TV shows. I love that, right? Here's Bones, you know. In our language, share other songs like the one used in the example, or show something in nature or industry that resembles the idea. Oh, we were just singing this song about bunnies. Let's go look at some bunnies. Are real bunnies like Mr. Chester or our stuffed bunny? How are they different? We could do that in music class. Might enliven the class. Number six, ask students to help summarize key points at the end of the session. Like I'm getting in your brain. I'm asking you, what do you think? Right? So you're not just sitting there taking it in, waiting for lunch. You're engaged. You can do the same thing with children. Well, what did we learn today? Did we learn anything? What did you like today? What was fun? What do you think we should not do again? And finally, 7, allow or even encourage whispering during the class. This is doctors. They're talking about adults. Let the adults talk to each other. Don't tell them to shut up. Don't get mad at them. Let them talk. Break out into groups or pairs and encourage discussion. It's very hard for us to let the children talk because the children often have no sense of how loud they are and all of a sudden they're all talking. But doesn't mean we have to tell them to shut up the whole music class. What good would that be? Let them talk some. Here's how I do it. I say, okay, you got 2 minutes to talk to each other about this. Go. All right, you have 1.5 minutes left. Okay, you have 1 minute left. You know, and then they know they can talk and they know when they're done. All right, so these are some of my ideas for all of us to, you know, begin to think about how we can have more input from them and be less didactic, you know, to take some of the wisdom and the joy from the Reggio approach and bring it into a situation which wasn't exactly meant for it, but which really can use it. Do you have any questions or thoughts at the end of this presentation?
How long are your classes?
My music classes are 30 minutes long each. I see every child in the building. Yeah. And with the little babies and the toddlers, I've really found it's amazing to just do jam sessions, especially like the ones, just play. I never thought about this, but when I thought about the jams, like, okay, well, what beat do I need to play for these toddlers to get in? How can I make them feel like musicians by what I play? And they start to sense that I'm getting in their groove, and they start to go, and then I know. And I don't have to teach them anything explicitly. I can just make music with them. And we are making music together. And then when they get a little older, they know how to do it. Yeah. Other questions?
What was number 6 again?
Ask students to help summarize key points at the end of the session. Get the students to help. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was, you know, probably, like, I don't want to say the most important one, but, you know, the goal is to get their buy-in and get their cooperation, right? So if you're asking their opinion and you really and then you kind of implement that, their suggestions or their thoughts, then they feel that you're respecting and valuing their words.
Yeah, and it goes without saying that maybe what they're saying is valuable and relevant.
Yeah.
And we're not just doing it to make them feel good about themselves, but that we actually could learn something from them. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present to you and for us to share our place with you, and I learned a lot from you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Hannah.